Hi. I'll pick up where I left off in the last video on this masterclass from Bach on Mozart's Sonata in B-flat major. And so I'll move on to bar 18 and bar 20. And this is paragraph 20 from the chapter on trills. Unter den Fehlern, wovon die Triller die unschuldige Ursache sind, entdecken wir zuerst diesen, indem viele die erste unter denen bei Figur 31 abgebildeten Noten mit einem Triller beschweren, ungeachtet die gemeiniglich über diese Passagen gesetzten Bogen dieses verhindern sollten. So verführerisch manchem diese Art von Noten scheinen möchte, so wenig leiden sie einen Triller. Es ist etwas Besonderes, dass durch eine unrechte Spielart gemeiniglich die besten und sangbarsten Stellen müssen verdorben werden. Die meisten Fehler kommen bei langsamen und gezogenen Noten vor. Man will sie der Vergessenheit durch Triller entreißen. Das verwöhnte Ohr will beständig in einer gleichen Empfindung erhalten sein. Es empfindet nicht anders als durch ein Geräusche. Man sieht hieraus, dass diejenigen, welche diesen Fehler begehen, weder singend denken können, noch jeder Note ihren Druck und ihre Unterhaltung zu geben wissen. Sowohl auf dem Klavichorde als auf dem Flügel singen die Noten nach, wenn man sie nicht zu kurz abfertigt. Ein Instrument ist hierzu geschickter verfertigt als ein anderes. Bei den Franzosen sind die Klavichorde sogar sonderlich nicht eingeführt. Folglich setzen sie ihre Sachen mehrenteils für den Flügel. Demungeachtet sind ihre Stücke voller Bindungen und Schleifungen, welche sie durch die häufigen Bogen andeuten. Gesetzt, die Zeitmaß wäre zu langsam und das Instrument zum gehörigen Nachsingen zu schlecht. So ist es doch allezeit schlimmer, einen Gedanken, der gezogen und matt vorgetragen werden soll, durch Triller zu verstellen, als etwas Weniges an dem deutlichen Nachklange einer Note zu verlieren, welches man durch den guten Vortrag reichlich wieder gewinnet. Es kommen überhaupt bei der Musik viele Dinge vor, welche man sich einbilden muss, ohne dass man sie wirklich hört. Zum Beispiel bei Konzerten mit einer starken Begleitung verliert der Konzertist allezeit die Noten, welche fortissimo akkompaniert werden müssen und die, wobei das Tutti einfällt. Verständige Zuhörer ersetzen diesen Verlust durch ihre Vorstellungskraft. Diese Zuhörer sind es, denen wir hauptsächlich zu gefallen suchen müssen. So, you can see that there as one of the mistakes which the trills are the innocent causes of, that many will burden that note, like in bars 18 and 20, and as well in bars 87 and 89, that they'll burden that with a trill. And you might think, so this is to show how relevant it is. And you might think this doesn't apply to us because we don't make that mistake. Well, it's only by default that we're not making that mistake. But would wager that if anybody repeating the exposition, playing the repeats, deciding that they want to vary the second run through, that one of the go-to things that they will do when repeating that, they'll be adding a trill to that note. And as well, something you can gain from that is you can imagine Mozart sitting there composing this sonata, and imagine him composing that bar. You can think now, thanks to Bach, you can get a glimpse into his inner thoughts, what he'll be telling himself as he composes. And this can serve like, a lead, the way a good detective follows the leads. This will be a lead. So what will Mozart have thought while he's composing that bar 18 and the other bars? He'll have thought, this note needs to be long and drawn out. It needs to be performed matte and drawn out. So I'll put a bow over there to prevent people from distorting that long and drawn out note with a trill. So that's what Mozart will have thought as he composed that. So that would be a lead. One could follow the leads and one could wonder what makes that, what makes that note long and drawn out, as opposed to, let's say, those notes on the E flat in bars 58 and bar 60. Why did Mozart not think he was distorting that note with a trill, whereas he would be distorting that C with a trill? So that would be a lead that could be followed. And this as well shows those people, and they don't come out and say it, but it's evident in their behavior, in their approach to Mozart, that they think Mozart is a talented idiot who got this God-given gift, and he just blankly writes down notes and they all happen to be perfect. It all happens to be wonderful because Mozart's floating through the clouds, hasn't got a clue, just the luckiest musician in history, got this extraordinary gift, did nothing to earn it, knows nothing, and just composes away happy as Larry. Not a thought in his head. And you can see there, you can get a glimpse into the sort of what it was going through Mozart's mind as he composed that. And he was saying, this note needs to be long and drawn out. I need to put a bow over it to prevent people adding a trill. And that is a level of thought beyond all these people who take this arrogant approach to Mozart. They did not know that existed there. And you can see that Mozart was not just absently thinking. You can see the level of what was going through Mozart's mind as he composed the deeper details. And he'll have thought, like I said, it's a lead. He was thinking deeper than the mere outcome of what he did there. But it's a good indication, not to use, it feels corny to say inside the mind of Mozart, but in essence, that's what this is. You are getting a glimpse. Mozart actually thought that when he was composing that bar. And what's the evidence of that? Is the slur or the bow he put over those notes. And as well, this shows that, surprise, surprise, Mozart knew how to think singingly. And a lot of professors would have their students, a lot of Lilliput, a lot of the Roll of Honor would have people believe that Bach was talking to idiots. They'd explain that the people Bach is referring to didn't know how to play tied notes or slurs. But one knows nowadays that if you take a kid who has to take piano lessons after school just as an extracurricular activity and is just going because he has to, that an average kid like that is able to play slurs and tied notes, and you'll get Lilliput people arguing that they can't, or trying to argue about what really is a tied note and slur, but in reality they can, because let's just like to keep it plain and simple, they can play tied notes and they can play slurs. And so the professors would have you believe that Bach is talking to that level of person. But when Bach's saying those who think singingly, he's talking about Mozart who can think singingly. And when he says those who can't think singingly, Kissin and Sokolov can't feel like they are not being addressed when Bach says that, because they will fall into that character. They will be the same as the roll of honor back in Bach's time. And they will display, for those with the insight, those will hear that neither Kissin nor Sokolov know how to think singingly. And I'm not saying that to say how bad Sokolov and Kissin are. I am saying it to show at what level Bach is talking about. He is talking about a level above Kissin and Sokolov. Mozart was a better piano player than them, and Beethoven was a better piano player than they were, and so too was Bach. So that's the level, and I say Kissin and Sokolov because many people would, put them at the top of the roll of honor, so that covers everybody else who follows. So that's why I'm not picking on them, but that's why, and it's not to say how bad they are, it's to illustrate the standard of this book. And you can see there that Mozart knows how to think singingly. So now I'll look at bar 23. And this again is the paragraph 1 of the chapter on trills. Die Triller beleben den Gesang und sind also unentbehrlich. Vor diesem brauchte man sie nicht leichter eher als nach einem Vorschlage, Tab 4, Figur 12a, oder bei Wiederholung der vorigen Note, B. And so here in bar 23, Mozart is using them at the repetition of the previous note. And as well, that can be seen in bars 25, 92 and 94. And this is again paragraph 6 from the chapter on Appoggiaturas. Zuweilen werden zwei Nötchen noch zuletzt von unten auf angehängt, welche der Nachschlag heißen und den Triller noch lebhafter machen. Figur 24a. Dieser Nachschlag wird manchmal ausgeschrieben, B. So, what we see in bar 23 and 25, 92 and 94 is Mozart writing out the Nachschlag or the afterstroke or the turn at the end of the trill, just like Bach says in paragraph 6 and shows in figure 24b. So now I'll look at bar 29. And this is paragraph 15 from the chapter on Appoggiaturas. Wenn ein Ton eine Sekunde steigt und alsdann wieder zurückgeht, es mag nun dieser Rückgang durch eine Hauptnote, Tab 4, Figur 10, oder durch einen neuen Vorschlag, A, geschehen. So entsteht vor der mittelsten Note auch leicht ein kurzer Vorschlag. Bei Figur 11 finden wir einen Haufen Exempel von allerlei Noten bei gleichen und ungleichen Taktarten. Wir sehen aus dem einen Exempel, dass auch ein langer Vorschlag in diesem Falle angeht. Da gestoßene Noten überhaupt simpler vorgetragen werden müssen als geschleifte und da die Vorschläge insgesamt an die folgende Note gezogen werden, so versteht es sich von selbsten, dass bei diesem Falle ebenfalls geschleifte Noten vorausgesetzt werden. Übrigens wird auch hierbei, wie bei allen Manieren, eine proportionierte Zeitmaß erfordert, weil die gar zu große Geschwindigkeit keine Auszierungen verträgt. Aus dem mit einem Stern bezeichneten Exempel sehen wir, dass bei dieser Gelegenheit, wenn nach einer kurzen, eine ungleich längere Note folgt, der Vorschlag vor dieser letztern nicht gut tut. Wir werden in der Folge sehen, dass alsdann eine andere Manier, welche besser ausfüllt, angebracht werden kann. So you see in bar 29, the tone is rising a second and is then going back again. So you can see the A is going to a B flat and then back to an A. And before that middle note is an appoggiatura, which will be short. And that as well can be seen in bar 98. And so, as well in that paragraph 15, Bach says that legato notes and a proportioned tempo is also required. And this will apply for all appoggiaturas. And you can see there that the neither is the tempo proportioned, i.e. the notes are short or fast, nor are they legato. And in terms of pros and cons, weighing up which answer is correct, you're going to hear two things. Lilliput, the roll of honour, are not going to be able to defend their interpretation. And they're going to have two arguments in their defence as to why they play this movement like they do. And one will be that, you know, the appoggiatura takes up half the value of the following note. And they'll say how it's, you know, that'll be it. That'll be one. And the other will be that the appoggiaturas are there so because Mozart doesn't want people to decorate that note. And here, I've mentioned this before, but here it illustrates just the level of how idiotic such an idea is. Because when Bach is talking here about how the ornaments, they need, you know, a proportioned tempo and requires, you know, and that when he says that, the ornament he's referring to is the long appoggiatura, because he's talking about the one example where a long appoggiatura will also work as the embellishment, as the ornament. And so to say that appoggiatura there in bar 29 is there so people don't decorate that C, which is what that appoggiatura is. It's a C. That's like saying, you know, if a kid points out a Christmas tree and asks their parent, why is there a Christmas ball hanging off that branch? That's like the parent telling that kid that that ball hanging from the branch is there so people don't decorate that branch. And you can see how absurd it is, because with that information, a kid will see a Christmas tree full of Christmas balls hanging off it. And he'll think whoever owns that tree definitely doesn't want anybody to decorate that tree, because he's hung a Christmas ball on every single branch. That means he doesn't want any decorations on that tree whatsoever. And the kid will see an undecorated Christmas tree that's full of Christmas balls. So you can see maybe how ridiculous that is. And then in terms of the debate, and you know, who has the most compelling arguments, who has more arguments as to which the correct answer is. And when you're looking to see how much does Lilliput or the roll of honour coincide with what Bach is talking about, you will see their one defence. You're not going to get a defence from them, from their interpretation, because what happens, what does it show when everybody gets, not only do they get it wrong, but they come up with the exact same wrong answer? It means they were all copying each other, because if the answer is wrong, people are going to come up with their own wrong answers, because they don't know what the right answer is. So they'll write in their own wrong answers. So if nobody's copying in an exam, in a test, in a class, let's say in school, everybody will come up with their own answer if it's not the right answer. And when everybody comes up with the exact same wrong answer, it means they're all copying each other. And so if Lilliput or the roll of honour were able to defend their interpretation, they as well, not only would they be defending their interpretation, they would as well be proving Bach wrong when he called them an abgerichtete Vogel, or a trained bird. He'd be proving him wrong when he called them, you know, fast players from profession, or treffers, i.e. people who, you know, hit all the right notes. If they were able to defend their interpretation, they'd be proving Bach wrong on all those things. But I don't think they can prove him wrong when he said that about them. And you can compare what you learn here. You can see the evidence in their performances, in their interpretations of that movement, and you can see just how much they get 180 degrees wrong. When there's two choices, that they'll choose the wrong one, and that it's not so flippant when I say that you are better off, whatever they tell you, if you do the opposite of what they say. If they say play a long appoggiatura, if you play a short one, you will have a better chance of stumbling across the right answer, if, you know, when you're dealing with them. So that's bar 29. And I'll move on to bar 31. And this is paragraph 23 from the chapter on ornaments in general. Alle der kleinen Nötchen angedeutete Manieren gehören zur folgenden Note. Folglich darf niemals der vorhergehenden etwas von ihrer Geltung abgebrochen werden, indem bloß die folgende so viel verliert, als die kleinen Nötchen betragen. Diese Anmerkung ist so viel nötiger, je mehr gemeiniglich hier wieder gefehlt wird, und je weniger ich habe verhindern können, dass zuweilen bei den gehäuften Zeichen der Fingersetzung, der Manieren und des Vortrags der Raum bei den Probestücken erfordert hat, dass einige kleine Nötchen von ihrer Hauptnote, wozu sie gehören, haben müssen abgerissen werden. So, the small notes of that ornament in bar 31 belong to the following note. and the previous note, nothing of the value of that previous note can be broken off, in that it's only the following note, so that in the case of bar 31, that E natural, it's only the E natural that will lose as much of its value as those small notes require. Yeah, so that in bar of 31 can as well be considered in bar 100. And here's paragraph 24 of that chapter. Vermöge dieser Regel werden also, statt der folgenden Hauptnote, diese kleinen Nötchen zum Basse oder anderen Stimmen zugleich angeschlagen. Man schleift durch sie in die folgende Note hinein. Hier wieder wird gar sehr oft gefehlt, indem man auf eine raue Art in die Hauptnote hineinplumpt, nachdem noch vulgar dazu die mit den kleinen Noten vergesellschaftete Manieren ungeschickt an- und herausgebracht worden sind. So, one slides into the notes via this ornament indicated by small notes. One slides into the main note. And one doesn't plop into the main note, in that one plays the main note together with the bass. And you'll find this from the roll of honour in masterclasses, where they offer advice when it comes to Mozart into performing those ornaments with small notes before the beat and plopping into the main note. So you'll actually get the roll of honour, Lilliput, advising students, these top experts advising students to do exactly that. What Bach is saying is so common, such a common mistake, that they just plopping into the main note. You don't plop into the main note in playing the main note with the bass. You slide into it through these notes, where the first note of that ornament is played with the bass or other voices. And an example where Bach says, and not only that, he says, not only do they plop into the main note, but as well, it'll be after that the ornament indicated by these small notes will be performed, will be introduced and brought out in a clumsy or awkward or unskilled way. And that can be heard in Kissin's, on YouTube, where Kissin plays the second movement of Das Leben wohl. You can hear exactly that, where he plops into the main note and he performs the ornaments indicated by small notes in a clumsy, awkward, unskilled way. So that is an example of exactly what Bach is talking about. And these two mistakes as well show these are mistakes that will be made by people who don't know how to think singingly. So when you're in a masterclass and you're getting that advice from the roll of honour professor, or you're listening to and following somebody who doesn't know how to think singingly and is giving you advice on how to make your interpretation, how to make it uglier, and it will certainly meet the disapproval of Bach. And which is closer to how Mozart himself would have played it? I'll say again, Mozart said to Bach, "You are the father, we are the children." Anybody who knows anything at all about music knows it because of you. And anybody who doesn't admit this is a bleep. And I'll just read the appendix to that paragraph 24. So überflüssig es scheinen könnte, zugleich zu erinnern, dass die anderen Stimmen samt dem Basse zur ersten Note, welche in einer Manier steckt, zugleich eingeschlagen werden müssen, so oft wird dem ungeachtet hier wieder gefehlt. Okay, I'll leave it there for now, and I'll pick it up again in the next video. Thanks. Bye.